Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. As usual, we will be discussing important Arab files. And today we'll be speaking about two important topics or two important developments that are taking place in the Middle East. The first is in North Africa, in the Arab North African region, Tunisia. And the second would be Lebanon and the development in Lebanon. Speaking about first segment, and in Tunisia, Tunisia has stood again as a model. And on the 25th of July, Tunisian President Kais Saied took several important decisions upon the demands of the Tunisian people that marked a turning point in the Tunisian politics after confrontations over the last 7 months with Prime Minister Hisham Mshishi and Speaker of Parliament and leader of the Ennahda movement, Rashid Ghannouchi. There were some of the confrontations in the streets. There were lots of protests for some of the unfortunate decisions that were made by the Tunisian government at then, and of course supported by the Tunisian parliament. Today there are lots of steps that have been taken by the courageous Tunisian president, and there are lots of measures to be taken at this upcoming stage. We'll be speaking about this in our episode, in our first segment. Later on, we'll be speaking about the developments in Lebanon, and this in light of the latest visit of the Lebanese Army Commander General Joseph Aoun to Egypt and his meeting with President Sisi, and the developments in the Lebanese scene. We'll be speaking about that and more in our episode. Before we delve with our discussion, first let's have a quick look on the Arab news that took place on or in this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Abdel Fattah Sisi received on Wednesday the commander of the Lebanese Army, General Joseph Aoun. During the meeting, President Sisi underlined the deep relations binding both nations at the official and popular levels and expressed keenness to support the security, stability and safety of Lebanon and its national interests. The President also commended the vital role played by the Lebanese National Army to maintain stability and balance in the country. For his part, General Aoun conveyed greetings from President Michel Aoun and expressed Lebanon's keenness to strengthening the historic and deep relations between the two countries. President Abdel Fattah Sisi received on Wednesday South Sudan's Vice President for Economic Affairs James Wani Iga and his accompanied ministerial delegation at El Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace. During the meeting, President Sisi stressed Egypt's constant stance towards reaching a binding agreement on filling and the operation of the Ethiopian dam in a way that preserves the rights of all parties. President Sisi also praised the Egyptian-South Sudanese strong relations and welcomed the holding of the first round of the joint of the Higher Committee in Cairo. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and his French counterpart Jean-Yves Le Drian discussed the latest developments in Tunisia and Ethiopia's Renaissance Dam over the telephone on Thursday. The top diplomat said they backed Tunisian institutions in the country's quest to achieve stability and security. Shoukry also reiterated to Le Drian Egypt's stances regarding the GERD issue, most importantly reaching a legally binding agreement for the filling and operation of the dam that secures Egypt's water rights. He added that he was looking forward to continuing consultation and coordination with France on the GERD issue, considering that Paris is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Up to 23 people have been killed in the fiercest clashes to rock Syria's Daraa province since it was captured by the government in 2018. Fighting started when the Syrian forces fired artillery shells towards the former opposition hub of Dar'a al-Balad in tandem with a ground push. In response, gunmen launched a counter-attack across many parts of the Dar'a countryside, where they seized several positions and captured more than 40 fighters. The Syrian army had started a military operation against hideouts of terrorists who thwarted a reconciliation deal. 2 rockets were fired early on Thursday at Baghdad's fortified green zone, which houses the American embassy, without causing any casualties or damage. 1 rocket hit the ground near Al-Rahman Mosque in the capital's Mansour district, which borders the green zone. The dawn attack came as Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi was flying home from Washington after White House talks in which U.S. President Joe Biden announced an end to the American combat operations in Iraq. Saudi Arabia announced on Friday it would reopen its borders to fully vaccinated foreign tourists after a 17-month closure due to the coronavirus pandemic. However, Riyadh did not announce any lifting of restrictions in the Umrah, which usually attracts millions of Muslims from across the globe each year. Saudi state media said that the Ministry of Tourism will lift the suspension of entry for tourist visa holders starting from August 1st. It said that travelers fully vaccinated with Saudi-approved jabs Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson will be able to enter the kingdom without the need for a quarantine period.
Right, welcome back. And speaking about Tunisia and the latest development in Tunisia, we have with us over the phone Mr. Soufiane Ragab, editor-in-chief of the Tunisian Al-Sabah newspaper. مساء الخير سيد سفيان. الو.
اهلا بكم.
اهلا بحضرتك يا فندم. يعني مبدئيا عايزين نعرف دلوقتي الوضع في تونس والاجراءات اللي تمت والمشهد كله في تونس.
اولا المشهد الان هادئ وهادئ جدا، يعني بعد قرارات يوم 7 وهي قرارات مثل زلزال سياسي في تونس وهزت تقريبا جماعة الأخوان المسلمين وحركة النهضة. الآن عاد الهدوء يعني والجميع وقبل الجميع بما حصل. الآن هي مرحلة إصلاح سياسي، إصلاح اقتصادي، وخاصة الانتباه والتحضير للوضع الصحي السيء والسيء جدا. الشارع التونسي يعيش حالة هدوء، الشارع التونسي يعيش على طبيعته، يعني الإدارات مفتوحة وعادية جدا. هناك حركة كبرى على المستوى السياسي، هناك حركة ما زالت تطمح في وتضغط من أجل التراجع عن هذه القرارات، وهو أمر المستقبل. رئيس قيس سعيد بصدد يعني البناء مجددا، وهناك حركة إصلاحية كبرى، حركة ضد الفساد، حركة ضد من أضروا بمصالح البلاد، وهناك فشل.
طيب أعطيني بعض الفرصة فقط للترجمة.
من أضروا على الجانب السياسي والاقتصادي.
تمام. حضرتك اديني فرصة للترجمة. We have asked Mr. Soufiane Ragab, the editor-in-chief of the Tunisian Al-Sabah newspaper, about the Tunisian scene at large and measures that were taken, and how is the situation on the territories of Tunisia. He spoke about a very calm scene in the streets of Tunisia at this very particular time, after measures that were taken by the Tunisian leadership. Now he says that there are movements and measures that are taken for restructuring, political restructure, economic restructure to the Tunisian future. He said that some movements or before that, he said that some measures were taken in order to, or for the sake of the Tunisian future. Those measures were taken through the sacking of the parliament and the Prime Minister or the cabinet at large, and the Speaker of the Parliament, the leader of Al-Nahda or the Brotherhood affiliated Al-Nahda movement, Rashid Ghannouchi. Now he says that there are movements for the restructuring of the Tunisian whole scene. He said that some movements are trying to pressure for the return of the situation, but that the people themselves are, or that these were the demands of people. سيد سفيان، عايزين نتفهم بالضبط الشعب التونسي كيف ارتأى الموقف أو القرارات الرئاسية، وكيف ارتأى استجابة الرئيس التونسي لطلبات الشعب، وكيف رأى العالم التغيرات الواقعة بتونس.
أولا هناك استطلاع للرأي موقف الشارع التونسي من قرارات رئيس الجمهورية، وكان الرقم كبير وكبير جدا لسيد رئيس الجمهورية. يعني 87% من الشعب التونسي يؤيد قرارات رئيس الجمهورية، وهو رقم مرتفع جدا. حتى أن حركة النهضة نفسهم يعني أقروا بذلك، والآن يؤكدون أن الشعب التونسي مؤيد لقرارات قيس سعيد ويرددون هذا الرقم.
تمام.
العالم نحن نعلم جيدا بالنسبة للموقف الدول الكبرى وموقف بعض الدول المؤثرة على المستوى العالمي والإقليمي، فكانت واضحة جدا. يوم 26/7 انتظر راشد الغنوشي وقيادته الإخوانية أمام مقر مجلس النواب، وحاول الدخول إلى مجلس النواب، وكان ينتظر يعني رد الدول العظمى. وبمجرد صدور مواقف الدول الكبرى المؤيدة لقرارات الرئيس قيس سعيد، انسحب راشد الغنوشي من الساحة، وعرف أن لا مجال قرارات، وأن موقف الرئيس قيس سعيد له تأييد شبه كامل، أقول شبه كامل، من قبل الدول المؤثرة الكبرى، وحتى الدول الإقليمية مثل الجزائر ومثل المغرب وفرنسا والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية تقريبا كلها مؤيدة. وزد على ذلك فإن المنظمات المالية قرار صندوق النقد الدولي والبنك الدولي أصدر بيانات مؤيدة لقرارات الرئيس قيس سعيد، مما أثار تقريبا حفيظة قيادة النهضة الذين كانوا يأملون في وقف المساعدات على تونس. وهذا ما رجح يعني الكفة بشكل كبير لفائدة ما يقوم به الرئيس قيس سعيد الآن.
تمام. اديني فرصة بس أترجم هنا. Mr. Sufyan here spoke about 87% of the Tunisian population who are in favor of the or totally supporting the decisions that were made by the president. He said that even some of the Al-Nahda members they confessed or they admitted that this number is true, or that the support of the people is so very true for the president's decisions that were made. As for the international community or the world at large response to what happened in Tunisia, he said that big powers, including the United States and France and all the countries who have big powers, they were all supporting, or they admitted to the constitutional measures that were taken by the Tunisian president, and said that even the leadership of Al-Nahda, represented in Rashid Ghannouchi, went in front of the...
الو
yes, حضرتك أنا معاك بس بترجم.
الو
أيوة حضرتك معايا؟ The speaker of the parliament at then, or the sacked leader, نعم سيد سفيان. سيد سفيان. ألو. طيب. We're speaking here about the response still of the international community and the support of the constitutionality of the measures that were taken by the Tunisian president. That includes the United States, that includes France and the European Union at large, and many other regional countries, including Algeria and other Arab countries. Also, he said that even international organizations, including the IMF and the World Bank, supported the decisions. As I said, that the Speaker of the Parliament, Rashid Ghannouchi, after those decisions, went in front of the Parliament to and stood, he and his supporters, in front of the Parliament, but then he retreated after he saw the support of the international communities to the decisions that were taken by the Tunisian president. سيد سفيان، أخيرا أود أن أسأل حضرتك إيه؟ سيد سفيان؟ طيب. I guess that Mr. Sufyan has ended, or we lost Mr. Sufyan here. So returning to what we were speaking about, and this is the situation in Tunisia. We also hope the best for our brothers in Tunisia and in their transitional period, because here we're speaking about very courageous decisions that were taken by the Tunisian President Qais Said, and that of course marked a turning point in Tunisia. Again, Tunisia is a model for the Middle East. Before we continue on with our discussion, let's first take this report, and we'll come back for our other topic, and Lebanon and the situation in Lebanon.
Tunisian President Qais Said appointed a former national security advisor as interior minister days after political turmoil grabbed the country. The new appointee, Riyad Al-Gharsalawi, is also a top-ranking former police official, according to local media. The presidency announced his nomination just as Said came under increasing international and domestic pressure to form a new government and prime minister. On Sunday, Said had evoked a national emergency to seize control of the government, dismiss the prime minister, and freeze parliament in moves his opponents called a coup. Tunisians are waiting the appointment of a new prime minister and the announcement of a roadmap to find a way out of the crisis. Supporters of Said have cast his intervention as a welcome reset for the 2011 revolution after years of economic stagnation under a political class that has often appeared more interested in its own narrow advantage than in national gain. American Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Thursday said that Said had promised him he was committed to democracy. But Blinken also urged action, including the restoration of parliament, which the Tunisian president suspended for 30 days. In comments on Wednesday, Said accused 450 businessmen of owing $4.9 billion American dollars to the state, citing the findings of a commission of inquiry into graft under former President Zain al-Abidine Ben Ali. Said also asked traders and wholesalers to lower prices in a country where soaring inflation has eaten away at the purchasing power of consumers.
Right, welcome back, and moving on with our topic to the situation in Lebanon. And here, President Abdel Fattah Sisi voiced Egypt's keenness on the safety, security, and stability of Lebanon and the Lebanese national interest as he received in Cairo Lebanese Army Commander General Joseph Aoun. President Sisi expressed Egypt's appreciation of its firm relations with Lebanon on the official and popular levels, and hailed the principal role the National Lebanese Army has carried out to protect the stability and balance in Lebanon, as national armies represent a backbone that guarantees the cohesion and stability of the nations. I guess to highlight the issue or the situation in Lebanon, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, Ambassador Bayoumi.
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. And we're here speaking about the scene in Lebanon and the developments that are occurring after the resignation of Prime Minister Saad Hariri and the collapse of the Lebanese economy and the Lebanese currency. The whole situation, how do you read the whole situation in Lebanon?
I'm so worried about what is happening in Lebanon. Lebanon was a very good model of living together from all the parties and all the factions in that very dear country. And Lebanon was always in the heart of our national security. 2,000 years before Christ, we have sent the Egyptian army to defend this area around us. Muhammad Ali Pasha sent Ibrahim Pasha to this same place. Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi went to the same place. So now we are, since long time, we are following what is happening in Lebanon. And unfortunately, that it seems that there are deep problems between different parties in Lebanon, and they cannot carry on to help their country to leave this sort of very bad situation, especially on the economy. In my first visit to Lebanon, I used to change $1 for 2.5 Lebanese lira. It came to 1,500. Now, during this recession, it exceeded 4,500, and I don't know where they're going any more further. Now, it's not only the economic situation, it seems that security matter is in danger. That's why we are receiving the chief of staff of the army. And I think Egypt wouldn't hesitate to give its advice and all its support to Lebanon by all its means. Same with many Arab countries, because many Arab countries are investing in Lebanon. Lebanon was a good model for attracting investment. Lebanon was a very good model for everybody to live without any problem between different people or different parties. So we hope that this mission will help Lebanon with the help of Egypt in order to see our brother country in a much better situation, economically, politically, and security-wise.
Ambassador Bayoumi, let me here ask you how or why do you think the situation collapsed in Lebanon? What exactly were the reasons behind such a collapse in the situation? Why this stagnant position of the parties inside Lebanon in order to be able to solve the situation in Lebanon? I mean, why is all this stagnant position from every part?
It seems that we have the normal problems we have seen long years ago between different parties in Lebanon. But adding to this, which making the situation much more complicated, that now interference from foreign countries. And the disastrous situation that each party is depending on a foreign force to support them. then the solution wouldn't be a Lebanese solution. Another disastrous situation that seems that we are facing a huge problem of corruption, financial corruption. That's why the central bank is not in good health, that the financial situation is not good at all in Lebanon. That's why people are trying to buy dollars in order to escape. There are several corruption cases that you don't have a Lebanese force who can protect all these dimensions of corruption. So I am not optimistic this moment until we see that Lebanese are coming back to have a sort of common language among them to stop interference from countries out of the country. And I think here we expect a much bigger role of Egypt, which was always playing the role of the big brother of the whole area.
You spoke here about the foreign interference in the Lebanese affairs, domestic affairs. And how do you view or what kind of interference is Lebanon witnessing at this very particular time? And are we speaking about a certain entity inside Lebanon that is complicating the situation in order for Lebanon to overcome this stagnant position it is standing in?
It seems that also the situation in Syria is reflecting its problems on Lebanon. And the role of Iran there is quite obvious in Syria and in Lebanon. Now Hezbollah is thinking that they are much stronger, so they want to impose their position. The president is taking parts among those parties, although we expect that the president should be above all these differences. The Americans are not far away. Israel is interfering. Everybody is interfering. So the situation, security-wise, military-wise, economically, is disastrous.
This time, are we speaking about a political situation or an economic situation or corruption that is totally destructing the whole situation in Lebanon? And in that sense, what is the support that Lebanon really needs here?
All what you said is quite well witnessed there. We see that there are economic problems, political problems, security problems, and corruption. Then interference from outside. So what we need is that a big power like Egypt can attract the confidence of all the parties, that we can play the role of an honest intermediator, an honest mediator among all the parties. Let us try to do that, and Egypt did it before. Hopefully with the help of other Arab countries who have the interest in a much more stable Lebanon, we can do something. But it's too early to judge how far we are going to see this sort of problem in Lebanon.
If I may ask you about the support that, or the role that has been played by Egypt so far in supporting Lebanon, and I'm not just speaking the old ones, but also the very new ones, and all the aid it has been doing, and what exactly is the role that Egypt can play? I mean here, intermediating in the political situation, intermediating between parties inside Lebanon, playing a role between Lebanon and other foreign countries. What exactly is the role expected from Egypt here?
Security-wise, here we are talking to the army, and I think there will be a sort of support there. Politically, we should talk to all the parties to make them feel that they will be, all of them will be in a better situation as they start negotiations, not confrontation. Financially and economically, by talking to the main Arab countries who has interest in the economic life in Lebanon, in order to support them, because Lebanon is in great need to have financial support. Maybe also we can bring here international monetary organizations such as IMF or World Bank, but it's still a little bit early. But I think also economically we need huge financial support in order to keep the balance there for those who are dealing with Lebanon, whether in trade or investment or with the banking system.
Here, President Sisi has received the Lebanese Army Commander General Joseph Aoun in Egypt, and the statements, or I'm just quoting here the President's statements to the Lebanese commander, he highlighted the need for concerted endeavors to settle any disputes in terms of the government formation efforts in order to get Lebanon out of the current state. But here he stressed on something very important, which is prioritizing Lebanon's national interests in a way that preserves the sources of the Lebanese people and their national unity. What is needed from the Lebanese parties or conflicting parties there in order to take Lebanon to a safe haven?
At least, and thank God that at this moment we do not have any military conflict there. This would be another disaster, reminds us with what was happening in the 70s. Now we don't have this, and we have to build on this, that Lebanese, after all, are very wise people, highly educated politically. And I think we can talk reason to them. And if we support the position of the Lebanese army in order to be a national power between all those who are indifferent, then this is something. Then we build on this politically and economically, one step after the other.
Right. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us and for your input here. Those are two important Arab countries and important developments that is occurring in the Middle East. Yes, in both we have seen that the armies in both countries is a backbone for the political stability and has always been standing to the people's will, behind the people's interests and demands. We do hope for our brothers in Tunisia and in Lebanon, in Syria, and in all the Arab region, all the best and all the end for the sufferings of our brothers or our Arab brothers, and we'll be awaiting for the next weeks and what will be the developments, particularly in those both two important countries. Many thanks for watching. Saturday will be another important topic, and then it's goodbye.